All right. Let me do a little promotion here real quick. This over here real quick. And we'll lower you, and we'll lower you, and I guess we'll move you over here, and... Okay, we'll do all that. And then... Do-do-do... Okay. Yep. I'm here in the flesh. What's up, Arkham? So I'm not sure if Curly's actually showing up or not, and also before I really start the recording, so to speak, am I too loud or anything? Am I too noisy, or do I not sound good, or does everything look okay? If someone doesn't mind letting me know. I think the other annoying thing that I still haven't figured out is there's like a 30-second delay on chat, and I don't know why. Stream. Output. Maximum replay time. I wonder if that's it. Cannot be paused if the recording quality is set to the same stream. Sound is good? Okay. Well, if anyone decides to ask a question or whatever, then I will just answer it 30 seconds later. One of these days I'll figure out why I have such a big delay on this stupid stream. So, let's just get into it, right? So for myself, I'm going to start it right around here. Hello everyone, my name is NoxWar. Sandy's out for the night, and so because of that, we're doing a NoxTalks. Curly said he was going to be stopping by. If he does not, then he's the liar. It's not my fault, and I promise I wasn't just misleading you about the stream title or anything like that. Having said that, I figured since it's the last week of the regular season and the last week of the year for regular season, we should probably talk about FlyQuest a little bit. And I wanted to really just highlight the fact that for me personally, I think they finished exactly where I expected them to. Third place is about what I expected. I really didn't think they were going to continue to climb, especially with the acquisition of Quad instead of Jensen. I thought there would be a slight decrease in level of play. And I'll get into this here in a little bit, but I actually don't think there was an overall decrease of level of play in the way that I thought there would be. I thought it would be a bit of a mid-jungle kind of like learning gap moment where it's like, okay, we just need time to synergize. I actually thought that Quad and Inspired were one of the best mid-lane jungle duos in the league. But it was other areas of our team play that ended up kind of collapsing and falling down a little bit. So, yeah, in general, let's just get into the season a little bit and kind of what our expectations for next week are against NRG. So, like I said, I thought Fly finished exactly where they would. I thought they'd finish third. I thought Cloud9 would improve. I thought Cloud9 would actually finish first and TL would take second. Whatever, close enough. It came down to that one best of one because it's a single round robin, right? So yeah, I really was of the opinion that Cloud9 would improve. I thought FlyQuest would decrease in quality of play a little bit, and that would probably be the end of the story, right? And I didn't think any of the other teams were really going to be all that interesting. I thought Dig would maybe be a little bit better, but I think honestly they look kind of atrocious. So outside of that, those are pretty much the only big storylines. So yeah. I think let's go into. Actually, yeah, let's dive into the mid jungle duo thing a little bit. So believe it or not, I actually do think that the best mid jungle duo in the league currently was Inspired and Quad. I thought, and it's very interesting because if you check the stats on this last week, there was a graphic that was shown. Maybe I could even find it. Let me see if I can find it. Versus Cloud9. But basically, they showed a graphic of like the forward percentage or a jungle percentage of each mid laner, and I think Quad was like 9th out of 8 teams, which is impressive. And then you had JoJo, who was like first. That was what the graphic was, right? Oh, I think it's right here. Yeah. So Inspired versus Blabber jungle proximity at 14. So for Inspired is 6th in the league for visiting top at 6.9%, 9th in the league somehow at 13.3%, and 12% last place in the league for bot. Like, this man doesn't gank. He doesn't visit your lane. He just farms. That's all that he does. So, like, that's all he wants to do. He just wants to farm. He doesn't really affect lanes at all. He really relies on his lanes to either go even, go neutral, or even win, right? If you lose, it's actually really messing up his game plan. So, yeah, and that's why it's kind of awkward when I say I think Quad and Inspired were the best mid-jungle duo in the league. But it really was because Quad enabled Inspired to do his jungle pathing, to do his farming, to get his objectives, to set up and play around the map where you want him to. And I really, really, truly believe that, even in like the Cloud9 game and the TL game, in the games where basically the laners were allowing Inspired to do what he wanted to do, there was constant advantages coming in. There were constant like gold gains. There was constant map positioning that was getting gained. And so all of that combined, like, that allowed them to be the best mid-jungle duo in the league, in my opinion, which is a little wild to say. Before people start wondering, like, okay, well, surely Blabber and JoJo, it's like, I don't think that JoJo was a great mid laner. And in fact, I think Blabber was helped supplementing him a whole ton, especially if you check his stats on Oracle's Elixir. And in turn, because JoJo was requiring so much jungle presence, it really, especially for matchups like against Inspired, it allowed Inspired to kind of just go wherever he wanted because there's so much presence having to be thrown at the mid lane. Like, it's stuff like that really just was a struggle bus. And outside of that, I don't think APA and Umti as a mid jungle duo, like, I would probably rate them second. Like, APA would always find advantages. I think Umti in general was solid. But I don't think I ever really saw scenarios where it was just super bust the game open kind of stuff. Whereas, I don't know. It's just kind of interesting because it's like you have two different play styles. You have like Inspired and Quad, where it's like, okay, Quad is not going to lose the lane. He's going to create constant pressure. And it allows Inspired to do what he wants to do. Whereas APA, it kind of was matchup dependent a little bit. Sometimes he'd win lane, sometimes he'd be losing lane a little bit, and Umti would have to back him up a little bit. And in process, whenever APA was landing lane, sometimes it would give Umti windows to go do certain things, but maybe it wasn't always the right decision. So all of that combined, I give the edge a little bit to Inspired because I think the consistency of when Quad was performing, which was most of the time, I don't think I ever really saw Quad losing lane all that much. It pretty much always allowed Inspired to have jungle advantages. And those jungle advantages, from pretty much what I was seeing, were constantly getting advantages for the team with ever Bwipo and Masu and Busio were not causing a fight or disruption or whatever it may be. And really, I think that was just kind of the story of this team this year. It was just Inspired saying, let me do my thing. I will get you the gold advantages. I'll tell you where to move. And from there, we'll have wallet diff, and then we can fight. That's how Inspired wants to play. And I feel like a lot of the times what would end up happening is, oh, hey, like, Bwipo sees this guy out of position, I'm going to go punish him because he shouldn't be doing this in North America. Which, maybe not wrong. But the thing is this, especially this split, like, yeah, maybe that guy shouldn't be doing it, but you're not punishing and capitalizing quick enough on those mistakes that the other team's able to respond. And because you went to go for that punish, you dragged other people into it, you messed up Inspired's pathing, you messed up his timings, And then it results in basically a lost fight for FlyQuest. And the other team walks away with advantage and looking like geniuses because Whippo, quote-unquote, inted, when maybe the call was correct, but the execution was not. And sometimes even maybe the call's not correct because it's like it was something you were never going to be able to execute on in the first place, even if the overall analysis and understanding of game states and flow states is correct. So it kind of comes down to like, what is the better call? Something where like, hey, this has the higher percentage like win rate, but it has like an overall lower ceiling, or something that has the higher ceiling and like a higher like you win harder this way, but it's a harder to execute. Sometimes I really feel like this FlyQuest team should probably just go for the lower ceiling, higher win percentage play, because that's just what Inspired wants to do. And when your best player, Inspired, is being able to constantly do advantages like he is and giving you wallet diffs like he is, maybe just kind of go with that. So, I don't know. That kind of just transitioned in me kind of complaining about Whippo a little bit, because I think it's been very frustrating to see him go from spring to summer. And basically resulting in, like, just not as good play this split. Like, I really do think everything I've seen him in interviews, pros, so on and so forth, I think he still has the right ideas about the game and how he wants to play it. I just think his matchup play style is not necessarily matching up with what Inspired necessarily wants to do all the time. Arkham says, he mentioned on pros that he could have done that with a standard way, but not a cannon, lol. Yeah, so it's just little things like that, right? That just kind of like, it makes a difference. So overall, I think I need Whippo and Inspired to kind of get on the same page in some way, shape, or form. And the reality is, because Inspired, in my opinion, is the one that's currently performing, and hopefully he doesn't have his MSI performance pop back up, because I think he was performing terribly there. But as long as Inspired's the one that's performing, I think I need Whippo to be the one to adapt to how Inspired is playing. So, with all that said, we've kind of covered Quad, we've kind of covered Inspired, we've kind of covered Whippo a little bit. Let's talk about a rookie bot lane, or rookie sophomore bot lane, right? Something that I think has really something that is really I've noticed is that they like swapping lanes, and the reason this is because I feel like they've been losing the actual 2v2s a lot. When you can kind of go back throughout summer and even spring a little bit, a lot of the 2v2s they were losing, which was kind of not great. So in general, I would say that's why they've been swapping, and it's been allowing Masu and Busio to get like just normal like gold income, normal XP leveling, so on and so forth, and it's really allowed FlyQuest to kind of get into the standard mid game that Inspired thrives in, and it allows him to get all these advantages that he wants. When you start getting into this volatility state where it's like you're losing 2v2s, it sets Inspired behind. He doesn't get to do the things he wants to do. He doesn't get the wallet diffs for you, and then you don't give the windows and angles for Masu, who is actually awesome out of lane. He's great in team fights. But I think the two of these guys really just kind of struggle in lane is what I've noticed throughout the split. So I'm not really sure what the expectation is going into playoffs for them. I don't think, especially because playoffs is always a different beast, right? Like traditional sports, even League of Legends, I think people come in with better prep. I'm not worried about NRG, and I'll get into them a little bit, but like, teams are going to start prepping for this stuff. It's like, yeah, they're probably going to swap lanes. They're probably going to send them top, or they're going to put the 2 into the top laner, so it's always a 2v1. And that's stuff you can start to kind of plan around, right? And that can really mess up the tempo and flow of FlyQuest. And I'm sure Fly has more than enough like knowledge and plans in the bag that they can pull out that they'll be okay. But when you start getting things against like TL and C9, and eventually my expectations of international, like, I don't think you're going to be able to get away with it. So, I'm hoping in scrims they're really practicing their 2v2s, because I think that's currently a weak point of the team in the early game. But yeah, I'm trying to think if Bwipo's been an issue. He's had some like bad dives where he's gotten dived a little bit and it's kind of set him behind, but it's not been too terrible in general. I think in general, a lot of the times those dives have been the results of like the other team actually setting up good timing windows, and it's just like hard to counter. And Inspired's been getting other advantages around the jungle during that time frame, so it's like, okay, yeah, top lane's losing a little bit, but it's allowed Inspired to do a bunch of different other things. So, yeah, all that said, I think going into playoffs, I'm feeling pretty confident. There are things that I would like to see the team work on. Number one being Bwipo maybe accommodating to what Inspired needs to do jungle-wise. And then I think I need to see the bot lane have the capabilities of being able to win 2v2s more often, or at least go constantly even. Like, I need them to be on, like, Quad's level of, like, never losing. Like, you don't always have to win. Quad doesn't always win lane. But, like, if you can at least be on the same level of Quad never losing lane, and never having awkward back timings and so on and so forth, then it's all good. I think then you can really allow Inspired to have even more options to thoroughly look into what you can do on the map and so on and so forth. Especially, and like if you notice, like you can go to Oracle's Elixir. FlyQuests doesn't have a really high Drake priority, and that's because a lot of the times what ends up happening is the bot side goes top, and the bot's not there to have Drake priority. So things like that, like you could have higher Drake priority, which means you can play for Dragon win conditions more often, so on and so forth. And a lot of times it's been kind of like Herald, and the thing is, Herald's never a win condition, and Grubs are never a win condition. It's things that can continue to snowball your wallet a little bit, and that's all well and good, but sometimes I would like to have the option of like, okay, no, Fly's playing for Dragon win condition here. And it's like, okay, that's maybe wasn't what in the plans, because that's not how they're playing the regular season. Things of that sort. So yeah, I think in general, that's kind of my thoughts on how the team's been playing and performing right now. I really hope that the team gets some good practice in this week. They will be playing NRG in the first round matchup of playoffs, and I think it should be a probably pretty solid one. Curly messaged me saying he wanted to hop in, but
Yes, hello, I'm here.
Hi. So
I snuck in. That stream remote really made my exit or my entrance very quiet for you, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, I didn't even hear you come in, so it worked out perfectly.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much you were listening, but
no, I was there for like a good bit of it. I did just wake up from a Chinese food-induced food coma, but I am ready.
Nice.
I'm ready to talk. I've heard your reviews. I have heard your opinions. I've heard your thoughts, and you've got some really good points about the state of the team right now. I think my biggest thing is I'm going to jump to the Inspired thing first, because like I can see why you say he's performing, and for his style, you're right, he is performing. I don't like his style for us because it's proven. I'm not putting the blame on him. But by being constricted to having the lowest mid lane priority, like jungler, who is really just playing farming simulator all the time, it has made it a bit harder for us to push leads that we could otherwise get. And granted, I think Quad has been the perfect mid to be able to do that, because even though this is his rookie split in the LCS, he's managed to show how good of a laner he is. He does do a lot on his own, so he's doing fine for that. But I think that we could push leads a lot quicker, and not throw them if we had the momentum behind a jungler with higher proximity, you know?
Yeah.
And then especially, I think we've really pigeonholed into this sort of like get the Void Grubs, maybe get the Herald. It's kind of I don't think we actually have as high of a Herald percentage as I would like us to. But we go for like this whole push the towers, push the lanes thing with the neutral objectives we fight over. And it does work out for us. Yesterday in both games, we were ahead on towers until we had each respective game losing fight, you know? But then it brings to the top lane. I have to admit, my boy Bwipo, not really living up to my personal expectations, but I know a lot of people meme about Summer Bwipo, about how he kind of gets a little inconsistent. And then, as we see by the champion picks, especially pulling out something like a Nautilus, it's like, all right, now we're getting into a bit of experimentation and all that stuff. And well, I think the experimentation might enable us in the long run to potentially do better, it does make me a bit nervous. But at the same time, this is kind of the best time to do all that, you know? Like, this is the regular season. This is where all you have to do is cross the finish line. So maybe, myself included, maybe we're all overreacting to the sloppiness of this team, and this is really just a prolonged split of getting out all the int so they can refine a unique, creative product of a team to send to Worlds. And that's what I hope it is, you know? I hope it isn't just Fnatic Bwipo and MSI inspired, you know, just kind of sleeping, waiting to bring us down.
Right.
As for the bot lane, I personally, you definitely have a point. They haven't been doing as well in the 2v2s in some cases as I think they should, especially wasn't a fan when we were kind of getting ripped on by 100 Thieves. I've talked about that last week.
Yep.
But yesterday, I felt like we found a strategy for the most part to keep the Masu even with Berserker, maybe even a little bit ahead, even if it didn't mean facing them head on. It's just like, all right, we figured out what we need to do for that. And I can definitely see Masu's confidence, because I was talking earlier about how impressed I was with the potential 1v3 yesterday. And sure, it is Ashe on Cloud Rifts, so she's got the slows and the speed boost, so kiting isn't terribly hard. But thinking about the mental fortitude to be in that situation where your team puts you on the opposite side from your Nexus against a Braum, a Zeri, and what was it, Lilia that was left?
Yep.
I don't remember. Yeah, and so like you're just kind of out there, and you just gotta really rely on your vision and kiting play, and like he really did, and it almost turned it around. And it was just like one or two moments that really flipped it over on him. I think it was a crit from Zeri. Like I think if it wasn't a crit, he could have been able to keep it up, but who knows?
And that's what I was saying earlier. Masu's great out of lane. He's extremely nimble.
Yeah. I think our biggest weak point for me has been our mid game, if I'm being honest. Because like, even if we have a bit of int in the early game, we recover it. But then once we get to the transition, it's like, I really do think we're cursed around Baron, even if Baron isn't the thing there. Because both game turning fights yesterday happened just above it.
So on screen currently, for anyone who's watching YouTube VOD, if you're doing Spotify or something, sorry, but I'll explain it. I currently have Oracle's Elixir stats page up currently, and right now I have it sorted on the mid to late game rating. You have Cloud9, who's number 1, Team Liquid number 2, 100 Thieves number 3, and Dignitas number 4. We are at number 5 at negative 1.2. Everyone else is positive above us. So yes, you were absolutely correct, Curly. Our mid to late game rating, or mid to late game in general, is not very good. We tend to make poor decisions around that time frame, and usually is what costs us in our giving up games.
Yeah.
So, yeah. No, I think you're completely on point about that. Did you have one last final point that you were trying to wrap up?
I think the big thing is like, just to hone in on it, is like I want us to be a bit more intelligent on what those fights are, because especially when I was watching the first game yesterday, what made me very upset about that game flipping fight is that there was no objective that we could have benefited from. There was nothing that trying to do that I could ultimately see giving us a big advantage, aside from maybe being able to push top a little more, you know? And the game of top lane isn't push it, it's wait till you can, you know? Unless you're playing Yorick in solo queue, in which case you don't have to worry about anything else.
Right. True. Yeah, so I guess with all that said, I was gonna go into FlyQuests versus NRG. What are your expectations for this? Are you like, we can do predictions now, or we can go into like specific matchup kind of stuff if you want? I
think the big thing is, especially with how confident like Whippa was on pros today is like we really just need to show up because like we've played the most games out of anyone this split because we go all the way in just about every series, and it's great. It's fine to do that in the regular season. Now these series can really like your season can start ending if you aren't careful and we don't make them clean, you know? And so especially against this, like I feel like this series would kind of set the vibe for the rest of playoffs, you know, because this is a team that we should be really good against. Like we should be able to probably not drop a game against them because a lot of other pros are like saying like NRG is not really doing good. Like they are down in the dumps. So like we just need to do well against them, or else it makes me now concerned for the next phase of the season. Like, all right, we're struggling against NRG in the first round of playoffs. What's going to happen next? You know,
we played Cloud9 again, and we get 3-0. No, I think we put up a pretty good. I think we put pretty good fight against Cloud9 this past weekend. Even though it was a 2-0, I think it was actually a somewhat close 2-0. I think in general I'm on the same sentiment as you. I think we really need to come out strong against NRG because this team looks hopelessly lost. They don't look the same energy of old as last summer. So I guess my prediction is I'm going to expect a 3-1 because I'm expecting something to go wrong somewhere. We did drop a game to them earlier this split too, and I wouldn't be surprised if we do it again. But I think in general, I'm inspired in the way he does his jungle pathing and acquires leads for this team. Most of the time, 75% of the time, you're going to get wins out of it because it's just going to get the team going well enough that they will end up skill diffing and skill checking the rest of NRG, who are a bit lost in the mid to late game, I think, as well as individual play at times is a bit questionable. So 3-1's my current prediction for this, and then we can go into Cloud9 the week after, and that's where we have our first real test.
Yeah, I can absolutely get behind the 3-1. I think I'm going to match you in that. Okay. Normally, I would like to be all the way hype, go full 3-0, but I need to see that we're done experimenting and, you know, on the performing track before I can do anything like that, you know?
Yeah, and like I know these players are underperforming on energy, but there's something in the back of my head, man. It's like I feel like at any point it can spark for a second, and that spark can give them a game or two, but I don't think it'll ever give them a series. So, yeah, fly 3-1. While we're here, just because we're kind of talking about it, Dig versus 100 Thieves. I'm kind of curious to hear your thoughts on this.
Oh man, that's a hard one to predict. I think I'm a lot higher on 100 Thieves now that they've got Tomo, if I'm being so honest.
I am too. Continue. I like what I'm hearing. Keep bringing it.
I mean, like, these last 2 weeks have actually looked pretty good from them. Like, even with... Especially, what did they, 2-0 Shopify, or am I crazy? Am I crazy?
They 2-1 Shopify.
They did 2-1 Shopify, but it's, like, still, it's just, like, Tomo's kind of breathed life into them, because Meech was definitely a bit of a weak spot for them right now, which is sad to see. But, you know, Tomo's just... I've always enjoyed Tomo since he's been on our roster, and so anytime he's in League of Legends or like in the LCS, it's just a great time. And then how poetic would it be if after being removed from Dig in the, you know, mid-season scrap that is their roster, to go back and just knock them out or down in playoffs, you know?
It would be
a great narrative.
Great storyline. I 100% support it. So, do you have a series prediction?
You know what is I want to see this go to a best of 5. I want this to really be a scrap because I do still see like Dig has the players. Like, they can perform. They just need to remember they can perform.
That's the problem. Is from my understanding is they have not performed at all this whole split, even in scrims like that. So did you listen to pros earlier today by chance?
I read a really great summary from someone in a Discord.
Wonder who that was.
I have no idea who it could be. They might go by the name of Box War.
Box War. Huh, interesting. Okay. I'll have to keep a lookout for them.
But yeah, I remember hearing about how like Dig just isn't performing, which is kind of, it's funny. I would say it's wild to me, but it's like, it isn't. It isn't wild to me that they aren't performing, because I want to be hyped for the team because it's got 3 really awesome Fly alum. But like, this is kind of what happens when you just invest in vets and names and don't think about that cohesion. Because if I'm being so honest, you could kind of look at these players and see like, all right, this player might work with that player and this player might work with that player, but I don't think they work together, you know? Like, I could see Sven and Spica being able to perform on a team together, and Licorice and Jensen being able to perform on a team together.
But all of them together?
Yeah. I don't think all of them together. I think you need some younger, more unique personalities that, like, fill in the gaps of each respective pair, you know? And Isles, unfortunately, is just the guy that is there to be with all these vets. And I don't think he's really a driving force for them, or really, I don't know. The dynamic isn't there.
Classic Dignitas, stick a bunch of stuff together and see if it works, and half the time it doesn't. So I guess, sorry, one more time if you did say it, my bad, but did you say what the series score was going to be?
You know, all I said was Silver Scrapes. I didn't predict a sign.
Okay. Are you not going to pick yet?
I'm gonna lean the Thieves. Okay. All right. Yeah. I'm gonna give him this one.
So yeah, I'm a little conflicted on this one, because on pros, literally everyone was saying, "Oh yeah, 100 Thieves should just stomp Dignitas. They're not good. Their scrims suck. They're awful, so on and so forth." Right? And even their stage games are kind of iffy, but I feel like they kind of flip it on stage just a little bit. And I also feel like in playoffs, it's a different mindset. It's a different like environment, even though it's the same location. So with that said, I think I'm still sticking with Dig season, baby. I think Dig are gonna take it, and I'm gonna go Silver Scrapes too. I think it's gonna be a slugfest, but I'm gonna go 3-2 Dignitas in this particular instance. So
what I would say is like something that I think would be just so like these players, if they manage to outperform everyone's expectations for how it is, they are the people that would have the personality to just soak it up.
Right.
So like the LCS content team would have a field day if they keep winning. You know?
I think they're hoping for it.
Winning.
All right. So that's the first weekend of playoffs, kind of talked about, discussed a little bit. That's Fly playing Energy. They'll play Cloud9 the week after. We can go into it next week at that point. Another thing that I wanted to go over with you really quick was, have you, by chance, built your All-Pro?
I just so happen to have, in fact, built my All-Pro. And it is so interesting.
Okay, well...
I do not think that there is merit to some of these in the eyes of those who might know better than me, but you know me. I'm half brain, half hype when it comes to this stuff.
All right, we'll do this. We'll zoom in nice and close. So, you want to go first, or we want to take turns doing this? Because I was going to go over my All Pro too.
Well, I mean, I think we can do, flip flop.
Okay. So I'll let you have. I'll let you go first. I'll let you have the top lane, and then I'll do mine, and then I'll start jungle, and we'll kind of flip flop back and forth all the way down to support. Sound good? Yeah. All right. I'll let you take it away first. And I'm not saying that just because I already brought you up on screen.
Well, so obviously, as you can see, I've got Impact first. I think most people on this list and who have watched the LCS in any capacity, or even heard about it through the grapevine, knows that Impact is just objectively the best top laner out there right now. It's just, he's on Team Liquid, the undefeated team. That's already propping him up great. He's been one of their most consistent players. I really think ever since he's ramped up in spring finals, I have not seen him fall back at all. So he's just nothing bad to say about him personally. My hype for Bwipo is what is putting me over Thanatos, because with what I saw over the weekend and just some stats that I've seen elsewhere, it's like Thanatos definitely performing pretty solidly, but I feel like with we were able to just kind of take him out of commission a little bit for especially the second game, and he had to rely on his team to bring him back in it, And granted, yeah, like I said, Bwipo definitely not been performing like I like him to this split. He's I'd be lying if I said he didn't run it down a little bit, but he's experimenting. He's got the brain power, and now he needs to translate that to the mechanics come playoffs. And I do overall think he does know the role he is supposed to be playing in his team. He just hasn't been able to do it as well this split. He's been a bit too hyphy.
Okay. And then Thanatos?
So then Thanatos is, like I said, he's still been very solid. I honestly think, like I said, I'm admitting a little bit of bias here with Bwipo, but I also think if he had been able to win the laning phases of the game yesterday more solidly and carry them away, I say that. Bwipo did die a lot in the first game, but didn't lose lane effectively in a weird way. I would put him higher, but he's still clearly just leagues above the rest of the top laners.
Gotcha. Okay, so real quick then, I also have Impact first, and I'm just gonna mirror you on pretty much everything you said. I think he's just been the absolute stable rock of top lane this split in the LCS. I think he's just been far and away one of the best players this split. I don't think he's made a lot of errors in general, and I think he's done a great job of helping lead Team Liquid to victories across the board. I don't really need to add much more. Then there's a giant gap, I think, from Impact down to Thanatos and Bwipo. And there's also a gap, I think, a little bit between Thanatos and Bwipo. But I'll get to that in a second. I put Thanatos second because I think in general... Actually, no, I have to talk about Bwipo here because I think the reality is I had a really big problem with Bwipo this split. Actually being a big reason for why FlyQuests was even taking losses, due to engages that just were not on the same page as the rest of the team, him trying to make punishes that the rest of the team couldn't manage, so on and so forth. Him just being off sync and it just not working. Whereas I think Thanatos had a bit of the same issue. He was never in sync with Cloud9, but it was never in the sense of he was inting it. It was him not being able to continue to punish the other team more. And so the other team would not get hurt as badly, could recover and then stabilize and then work their way around the map and then find other angles. Whereas I think Bwipo was in certain situations, forcing FlyQuest into losing positions because he was trying to push too hard to win faster and harder. And so for me, I have a higher value on, and it's weird to say value because there's no value here, but I value Thanatos just not being on the same page as Cloud9 and not forcing the team to lose, but also not really helping them win, whereas Bwipo was trying too hard and causing the team to lose in certain situations, and more often than not, it felt like not really helping them win. Earlier on in spring, it felt like Bwipo, his Udyr play, constantly invading the jungle, constantly disrupting fights, constantly making sure it's hard for people to join, the rest of their team wherever else on the map, things like that. I haven't really noticed that this split, it felt like. It felt like Bwipo a lot of the times was trying to do those things, but doing so unsuccessfully, and in turn, being a bit of a detriment to the team. So, with all that said, that's why I have Thanatos over Bwipo. A lot of people are probably going to ask, and I'll ask your opinion on this too, but a lot of people are asking, I've seen in various Discords and Twitter, what about Sniper? Does Sniper deserve that third place spot? And don't get me wrong, I think Sniper had some really, really cool and interesting moments in laning phase that, he actually punished people, and that's cool and it's hype. But I felt a lot of the times it was not him able to lead his team off of those advantages into better advantages, into team winning advantages, into actual won games, things of that sort. And so for me, that's why I just didn't have the heart to be able to put Sniper up there. As good as he was in lane, and as good as he was at finding like 1v1 solo advantages, he just was never able to convert that to a wider team goal, so to speak. So, did you have anything on Sniper by chance, Curly? Or
yeah, he definitely stepped up this split from last one, but just not quite enough to, for me, break into that top 3 discussion. I think would be hard to argue any of them for top 3, especially back in spring. You had River and Quid popping off at the very least, just in spite of their team, but that just really hasn't been the case. It's just more recently that they've gotten a little bit of wind under their sails.
Right. So, all right, that's the top side. I'll kick it off on the jungle. I was very conflicted on this one. So I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, Inspired is far and away the best jungler, and I completely understand the argument for it. I think my issue with it is also kind of the same issue that you had with it a little bit, Curly, that you were talking about earlier, about how his playstyle does not necessarily 100% gel with the rest of the team. I am of the opinion that Inspired's playstyle works, and it finds a lot of success for this team, but because it does not necessarily gel at 100%, it's hard for the team to constantly help him actually be the number one god jungler, so to speak. And so that's kind of why I have him at second, because his playstyle enables a lot of success for FlyQuest and brings a lot of success, but it's not the one, he doesn't have the team to enable him to be the best, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. It's just such a weird niche playstyle. No other jungler really truly plays like he does, in my opinion. And so I feel like if he had the team that was really yeah, we'll make sure you can play this way, I think he would be number one. But he doesn't have the team to do that, so he's not number one, even though he's playing it, at least this summer, I thought, damn near 100% efficiency. So, and that's the kind of crazy part of it. So having said that, playstyle-wise, I think I just have to put him in second, whereas Blabber, I think, was doing more work for Cloud9 in general, even though the efficiency sometimes wasn't always there. I think there was more big moments of impact, big advantages all acquired in one singular moment that Blabber was able to pull off, while also still kind of having good farming in general. Not as good as Inspired's, but just higher stats in that regard as well. And then lastly, I had Umti, who I think has just been solid in general. I think him and APA have been a solid mid-jungle duo. I just don't think he was nearly as explosive as Blabber, and I don't think he quite had the farm pathing as good as Inspired, so to speak. But he's still at an elite tier in terms of junglers in the LCS. So it's there's a difference between this one and Topside, where it's oh yeah, you had Impact, great, elite, and then you had Thanatos and Whippo, who were I guess your top 3. This is okay, they're all elite, they're all really, really good, and you're talking minute differences here. So I feel kind of bad for putting Umti third, but the accolades of this third are higher than say Thanatos' second, for instance.
Yeah.
So yeah, let me bring you back over here real quick. So this is your top 3 for jungle, if you would like to go over it.
Yeah, so I believe it's taking me a second up there, but I believe I put Umti on top.
You did.
Yeah.
You had Umti, Blabber, Inspired.
Yeah, so Umti, just for me, kind of the opposite of what we see from Inspired is I feel like he does a really good job of supporting his team actively while still being able to farm and get objectives. And I think that's been a major contribution to Team Liquid's ability to succeed and be the undefeated team of this split. I think he's just got really sound judgment, and similar to Impact, I think once he's scaled up in spring, he didn't really lose it. He's still very, very solid in a lot of aspects for me. Yeah. Blabber comes second because he definitely has, like you said, been a bit explosive. And similarly contributed more for his team directly than Inspired in the early mid game. But he also just kind of has some classic Blabber moments where I think the judgment isn't quite there. So it's still lacking. So that's what's making him fall short. And then with Inspired, it's like, you're right. He's got a very unique style. But you have to, the only case where a unique style is good, is if you have the team around you that makes that work. And in this case, it is not, that is not what's happened, you know? And so even if you, or rather when that happens, this unique style is more of a like, all right, is it really even that good? Like, sure, it's impressive that you can farm way more than other people and trust your team well enough to do that and have most success. But not being able to get as close to 100% success, it kind of ends up being a little bit of a hindrance, which is why I put it down at 3, you know, because it's like, you've got this unique talent, it's just not well expressed.
Gotcha. Okay. Like I said earlier, I really think the 3 of these guys are all like elite junglers in the LCS right now. So you can kind of put them in whatever order and like have a absolute more than understandable justification for putting them in the order that you did. So, yeah, I think that's about all that we have on jungle, unless you have any final notes on it.
Nope.
All right, mid, you're up. One more. We're snake drafting this.
I like it. So we got Quad up there. Quad, I just really do think he's performed really well in his first split in the LCS, especially given the fact that he's had a jungler that doesn't come near him. You know, he has the lowest, visually the least support from the dude that is expected to support him the most, and has still looked very, very good every week. And he has the confidence to go for plays and competence to make a lot of them happen. For me, anytime I see him like dying or being like falling behind a little bit, it's rarely of his own accord. It's more him not being able to, or the game plan not working out well and him having to suffer because of it, you know? So I especially think with how unfortunately inconsistent FlyQuest has been this split, he, for me, has been the consistent thing. You know, he is always going to do his best, and he's never going to hinder us. And so that's what puts him at first for me. APA, he really, you know, I have to respect him. He's really shaped up. He's really shown his stuff against every other mid laner that, like, you know, the respect is due there. But it's kind of that weird case, and I know for some people this is probably a weird argument, or not a weird argument, and a weak argument. It's like, when the rest of your team is performing so well, are you really performing at your peak? Or are you just not as pressed because your team is taking care of a good amount of things for you, you know? So that's kind of the case where I feel like it can be a bit diluted because of how well the team as a whole is doing. It's like, he kind of, for me, would need to perform even more exceptionally for me to be like, all right, no, he is still at the top of the game, you know? And then Jojo Pune.
I'll be curious to see what your thoughts are on Jojo this split.
I know that some people are a bit low on him. I know people are saying he's inconsistent. I just still think he is one of the most mechanically talented laners from North America, and most inherently confident in his abilities, you know? It's just that he hasn't, it just hasn't worked out for him as much this split, you know? And I don't think that's entirely his fault. I think it's just the nature of, similar to Inspired not being able to mesh perfectly well with FlyQuest, and it's like JoJo hasn't been able to mesh well with Cloud9 this season, you know? Like, he still has the chops, he still has the thing, it's just, you know, he needs to fall in line with Cloud9's plan if he wants to have more success.
Yeah, okay. You know what? Following up on, I'll kind of go backwards on mine. Because I also had JoJo third. Oh, hello. Okay. I also had JoJo third, and a lot of the stats show that he's still one of the best laning mid laners in the league. Like, he will push you into your turret. He will make sure you are constantly under pressure, so on and so forth. But that's only been for about the first 10 minutes, and then past that, his decision-making has kind of gone down the drain a little bit. And he's had lots of questionable int moments that have not really quite cost Cloud9 games yet, outside of maybe a couple versus Team Liquid. But really, I've not been overly impressed with him, because it's outside of the lane phase, he's just another kind of standard mid laner who also makes mistakes. And it's really his early game laning phase that's really the only reason I've still got him in third over everyone else, because everyone else in some way, shape, or form I thought has had either horrendous throws or has just not been very impressive, has not been able to carry their team to wins. And I just in general think JoJo kind of gets by on the accolades of his laning phase, which kind of feels bad a little bit, but I mean, that's just how it is. I don't think anyone else in the league, unless I'm really missing someone, because I'm not giving it to Mask, and I don't think Insanity had a good enough early split to warrant being considered. I don't think Quid has really been the same. I know he was MVP last split, which I still disagree with, by the way. I don't think he deserved it. I don't think he was playing on the same level. Jensen, I think, has been just mediocre to okay. Did not have the same level of look as he did this past spring. And then Palafox has definitely not been it either. So, really the reality of the day is, the rest of the mid laners have just not been very impressive, and I think JoJo kind of gets by on the accolades of his early laning phase, which, I mean, as much jungle presence as Blabber gives, I may be part of it a little bit, but it also enables Blabber to do some other things around the map here and there, too. So, if it's helping Cloud9 find success and to snowball into, leads into wins, then by all means, I'm willing to give it to him. Second place is Quad. I thought Quad has been actually very awesome for FlyQuest. He's exactly what Inspired needed, as I was saying earlier. He allows Inspired to do exactly what he needs to do. He's stable. He's a rock. He can even get solo kills occasionally, as you saw against JoJo in Game 1 of Cloud9 earlier this weekend. I really been very, very happy and pleased with how Quad has performed, and I am looking forward to seeing how he continues to grow on this team. So... And with that said, I did give APA first, though. And the reason I say that is because I think APA has had more standout moments this split that have really cemented wins for Team Liquid, that have been Tristana jumping in, getting a couple kills, being able to jump out, these kind of combo jump kind of plays where it's oh shit, that it was sick. Things of that nature. I just think it's a matter of kind of flashiness, and I think APA has been a little bit more flashy than Quad, because there's been instances where they both had questionable decision making, but they've also had instances of really good decision making. And the reality is, I think APA has just been a little bit more clutch than Quad has been, which is why I end up giving it to APA this split. So, I think that's it for mids. Bot lane. I feel like we're kind of taking a while on this. Maybe we'll start trying to be a little bit quicker, but. Bot lane, Yeon, Berserker, Masu for myself. Pretty self-explanatory. I think Yeon's been very, very incredible. I think Berserker, I don't even really remember any instances of int from Yeon specifically. Maybe one in total. I think he's been just a crazy rock and has had some crazy outplays throughout the split. Berserker's kind of the same, just not quite as consistent. I think he had maybe a couple more ints than Yeon has. And Masu, I think, has a very big struggle with lane phase, which is why you see him swapped so often. And he performs very well out of lane, which is why I think I still have him up here compared to the rest of the AD carries, because they've just also not quite been on the same level as any of these guys post lane phase, right? I think all three of these guys at any moment can pop off post lane, and they will hand the team the win if you just give them the space to do it. Whereas some of the other AD carries in the league, I don't think are really capable of doing the same thing every single game. And so, with that said, you and I actually differ a little bit on this. You thought Masu was better. You thought Masu was better than Berserker, so you still had Yeon first.
Oh yeah. I mean, so this whole Team Liquid roster is just they're juiced up all season. This is, I want to say, the peak team that they have produced in the last 4 years. And so Yeon is part of that, and he's objectively the best ADC in the league right now. I put Masu over Berserker because I really feel he does have a lot more of that self-honed talent. I have them very, very close. This is millimeter flip, you know? It is not like, Masu is leagues above Berserker. It's just very close. And even though the games went the way they did yesterday and Berserker looked better, I firmly believe that the way both ADCs were yesterday is like whichever team was able to have the slightest bit more momentum, that ADC would have looked supreme. And it just happened to be that Berserker got that. You know, Berserker got the team that was able to get that momentum, and he was able to run with it. Because it's like you said, it's like Masu can hand this team a win if they just get 2-3 items and
give
win
him
the game.
space.
You know, yeah, give him the space. And so I think he's got the talent. I think he's got the confidence. I really do think it's just the rest of the things need to fall into the right place to let him thrive. In Berserker, like, same thing. Like I said, it's really just that millimeter. I just think he's able to synergize with Vulcan really, really well, and I think that makes him look a bit better. I think really finally falling into place over summer, which he didn't seem to do in spring, has helped him look way better.
Fair point. All right, let's get into supports real quick then. You got Vulcan, Busio, Core, JJ. You have Busio over Core. Interesting.
Oh, yeah. Dude.
Okay.
We get... A known thing about me is how I always... This is gonna be the only time I actively flame a little bit, is like, I will concede Core JJ has been really solid this year and this split, but I just do not believe he is the best, and I've never felt that ever since I personally have watched the LCS, you know? He's definitely...
Viewer note, Curly started watching in 2020, so just...
Yes. But so, with that, it's like, yes, he is a lot above, but this is a firm case where I feel like he's also been blessed by a young, talented ADC in Yan, and like he's kind of like that anime, I guess, teacher who guides the protagonist and knows that the protagonist is going to surpass him at some point. And now we've got Yan, his student, that he has helped grow, is surpassing him, and he's like riding those coattails a little bit. And granted, he still does a great job. He makes very sound lane things, which set lane decisions, which set Yan up, and really good macro. But I just don't see it being as impactful to the team or leagues above Busio and Vulcan. Busio, I think, is probably my most controversial take here, because I really do think he's reminding me a little bit of Hylissang. And some people feel certain ways about Hylissang. Some people call him the professor. And some people think, what the hell are you doing, man? And I'm getting little notes of that. Like, it's not quite there yet. But I think the team, like, just the way this year has gone, and how much this team experiments, it's like he does show kind of the variety of, like, he's willing to adapt to whatever the game plan is, and go for things, and sometimes those things don't work out, you know? And that's why you sometimes have our bot lane looking like the hottest thing, and sometimes having our bot lane look like a hot mess. So I really firmly believe in, if the stars align in the right way, his confidence in his decision making will help this team shine. And then Vulcan is just, he's always been someone that I view very highly in the support role here in NA. I feel like most splits he does a lot for the flow of the team, for making great decisions in team fights, for making good picks for what will contribute to comps. I think he's a very focused personality who is just able to kind of like stay calm and not make rash decisions. And I think he's been a real good backbone for Cloud9 this split.
Yeah. I'm 100% with you on Vulcan. I'll get into Core JJ and Busio here in a second. I do feel like part of my bias for Vulcan a little bit is the fact that I don't think he's performed very well. Like, he wasn't performing well on FlyQuest. He wasn't performing that great on, oh, shoot. Who was the team that he came over from before he was on FlyQuest? Was it Cloud9 still?
It was Cloud9.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So I didn't...
You ticky-talking.
Yeah, I didn't think he was performing that well on Cloud9 in spring of last year. I don't think he performed all that great on FlyQuest of summer last year. And then I thought he was just, like, okay this past split. And so coming into this split where he's having these, like, huge, like, moments in the game where it's, like, actually clutch, like, hooks or clutch headbutt pulverizes on Alistar, the Braum save coming in with the shield, things of that sort. I think he's been incredibly clutch this split. And I was, like, really impressive how he stepped up his like movements around the map, his actual mechanics in terms of like team fight saving moments and things of that sort. I was hard pressed to be convinced that Core JJ deserved it over him. So with that said, I do have Core JJ over Busio because I think Core JJ's ability, like he's always been the roaming support. He's always been the one that's able to move around the map. He's the one doing weird timers that just don't make sense, but like it catches a team off guard and his proper punishes, things of that sort. And then mechanically, I thought he's still been pretty solid in general. So for all that combined, I thought he's just been a very solid rock for TL that allows Yeon to grow and build up to his normal threatening 80 carry self that he can be. And so all that combined is the reason I had him in second. Busio, again, and this is kind of the same problem that I had with like Masu as well, is the fact that like they're just not a great 2v2 lane, I feel like. Like they've been punished a lot in the 2v2 from like even teams way below them. Energy's punished them, Shopify's punished them. Stuff like that just kind of like brings it down for me a little bit, and that sucks, and it is what it is. But I also think his vision game has improved a lot since spring. I think his roaming timers have been a lot better as well, enabling Inspired to kind of do things around the map here and here, as well as certain timings with Bwippo that I like. The few times that Bwippo's calls have worked out, where he really has been able to punish someone, like usually Busio's been there to help enable that, as well as helping support Quad in moments where like Quad does need a little bit of help in the mid lane, even though he hasn't really needed it that much. So I think in general, that's why I have Busio there, is just because it really is just the 2v2 laning for me, and that's kind of the big issue. So that's all the all pros for us. Do you have any final comments before we talk about MVP real quick?
No final comments, just a disclaimer of I really don't know what to do for this award, so this is going to be fun to explain.
Do you have something in place already?
Oh yeah, no, I voted.
Okay. All right, so it sounds like we should save you for last then. Like we'll do the grand reveal for you. Does that work?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
It'll go smoothly. We'll figure it out.
All right. My MVP that I'm nominating for is Impact. I really do think that this man has just been the absolute rock of top lane. I think he's just been a constant pressure and force for all teams to deal with. I don't think he's really had any int moments at all. I think he's had plenty of clutch moments as well that have really just forced teams to like play around him, or like he's. It's just frustrating to play against him, right? He just does everything right, is what it's felt like this split. And so I think that's why I'm giving it to Impact. He has literally, quote unquote, had the most impact for his team than any other player. My runner-up was Vulcan, for all the reasons I stated earlier of giving him first place, support, all-pro support. And then third place, this is kind of odd because I had Blabber over Inspired, but the way I view MVP is most valuable to your team. And for me, Blabber is not necessarily like you have Vulcan, who's the most valuable on your team, so I can't be giving it to Blabber in that sense, right? Like I can't have you sharing MVP awards or votes or whatever you want to call it. So for me, Vulcan was more important to his team's success than Blabber was, which is why I'm giving it to Vulcan in the second place runner-up. Inspired for me then becomes third because I think he's the most valuable player on FlyQuest currently. He's the reason why FlyQuest finds wins. He's the reason why they have advantages and so on and so forth. And he's the one that does it the most consistently. And so I think at any point, Inspired finds a way to continue to really truly bring home wins through that playstyle, or maybe possibly if his teammates continue to level up a little more and they don't have these questionable moments of like going for engages to try and win harder and they just let Inspired do the thing, maybe this is the questionable, or maybe that's a conversation we can have about Inspired being the MVP, because I don't really think Inspired had a lot of flaws this split. I don't think he had a lot of int moments. I think he pretty much did most things as he should have been doing with the way he plays his jungle playstyle, but the reality of the situation is that playstyle is subject to how your teammates are doing. And if your teammates decide to make questionable decisions, it does bring your overall play style down and your overall play level down. So that's why I had Inspired third instead of Blabber and below Vulcan and Impact. So that is my MVP nominations. With that said, little drum roll.
Let's see how we talk about this.
For Mr. Curly QQ, we'll drag it over nice and slow. We'll build up the tensity.
Oh God. Okay.
Switchbox is the one right before it. There it is.
I can't wait to see what I did. I can't wait to see what I did 15 seconds later. All right, read out what you got me. I think I've got Impact first.
You do have Impact first.
Okay.
Honestly, this is not. You were making a scene that was going to be like egregiously like wild or something. I wouldn't say this is that wild.
What is it? I can't see it yet.
Oh, you have an Impact Vulcan quad.
Oh, all right. Well, all right. Yeah, cool. I'm not as crazy. This has been a long day for me. Like I said, we've got the coma from some chicken just before this.
You're chilling.
So we're chilling. Impact. He is the best in the game right now. There's just no denying that. He is the Rock in the top lane. He is the Malphite cosplay. Top will die if he's around, and Team Liquid will win. That's just how it is. Vulcan, as we've said, really does a lot for his team. Really stepped it up from previous splits. Just contributes a lot to wins. So this is the spice one. My FlyQuest MVP is not Inspired. It is Quad. Like I've been saying earlier, I just feel like he has contributed more to more value to the team. I think him being able to enable Inspired to play the way that he wants by being such a confident solo laner who doesn't need a lot of support has in turn been the reason that Inspired is then able to quote unquote be the reason we win. I think you don't have Inspired being able to create those scenarios without Quad being fine on his own. And like I said, I think he's had a lot more moments of success than detriment on this team than really any other player. I don't think he's ever been a reason we lose. And I just think he has been our most stable and valuable player.
You know what? I actually see the reasoning for it, because I mean, compared to my logic of Inspired, where it's just little advantages at getting wallet diff, I think Quad is probably, because Bwipo's been too inconsistent, I think Quad has been the biggest impact player for the team. So I completely understand putting Quad there. Totally. So, I think that should be it for MVP. I'm not going to go over the full Rookie of the Year thing, but I'm assuming you have the same player as I do, and I would love to give him his accolades.
I don't think anyone should have anything else. Yeah, I don't think anyone should have anything else.
But good old Masu. I also have Masu.
Oh, yeah.
So we both have Masu, and I think it's more than well-deserved. I think he's been a great rookie year. I think he came in little timid in the beginning, but honestly, that was fine. Feeling it out, getting used to how the LCS plays, and I think past laning phase, because I think that's still an issue currently a little bit, he really is living up to the NACL version that I would see of him in past years, where he's just pulling out these crazy plays. He's playing great spacing, case in point being that Ashe 1v3 he almost pulled off against Cloud9. He really made Cloud9 work for it and forced a TP for him to actually get killed. All that to say, I think Masu really has stepped up to the plate to be FlyQuest's new franchise AD carry, and will be someone that I look forward to seeing on this team for many years to come, hopefully. So yeah, I really expect him to be someone that we constantly look to as being one of the greats in NA. And I really hope that by next year he'll sort out the laning phase issues, and he will be competing for All-Pro and possibly, depending on meta or whatever's going on, maybe even MVP one day. So that's kind of my general thoughts on Masu if you want to add some final little flavor.
Well, my little flavor is going to be when Gumayusi was a rookie under Faker. He was also rough in the laning phase for his team. He also struggled to perform. He also dealt with that rookie shivers and having to figure it out. But he still looked good.
Fair.
And sure, so I see the maybe we've got an NA Gumayusi in Masu.
I can
prophecy.
I can see it. I hope you're right, man. I really hope you're right. All right. We've been going for probably a little over an hour and 15 minutes now, so it's getting close to time to wrap this up really quick. But I did want to hit on NACL really fast. The boys did play CCG this past weekend. They finally 2-0'd. I did not jinx them. I guess it was me knocking on wood this past podcast. But they finally 2-0'd. They looked okay in it, and so they ended up securing the 3rd seed, and they will end up playing, as I feared, Team Liquid Challengers in the first round of playoffs in the upper bracket. Don't get me wrong, I do think we still have the advantage. And for anyone who's not really been following NACL, Team Liquid Challengers team is Jenkins, Keel, Romer, Spawn, and Kim Down. So the same as last split, but just as a general reminder. So yeah, I think should still be able to win this. I really do think FlyQuests can pretty much beat any team here. I think, honestly, their biggest enemy is themselves, with Shaden and Surdy really just kind of finding moments to run it down and do things that are kind of dumb, as well as Bradley still learning and getting back into the mid lane role because he's been kind of caught out into some dumb positions. I think in general, Sajed and Chime have been really good and one of the best bot lanes in the league. They haven't really had too many bad int moments. So all that combined, I think really this is still absolutely 100% FlyQuest Challengers capable of like taking first and going to Brazil later this split. And so that's what I really hope to see. But at the end of the day, the bracket is not kind to us. You still have to get through Team Liquid Challengers first round, and then you have to meet Fear X Starforge in the second round, and then more than likely you're going to have to play Dragonsteel, who has not dropped a single series the whole split, and they're terrifying right now. At that point,
getting a book sponsorship would make you the best team in NACL.
Yeah, who would have thought, right? That and the acquisition of Zamudo, who, don't get me wrong, like I like Zamudo's been okay, right? Like he's not like the best top laner here, but he's been solid, and I think compared to Niles, I really do think he's kind of like a little extra bit of oomph that he can provide, but he also has a little bit more inconsistency that he brings to the table. So maybe like with how much inconsistency is in NACL, I think the extra oomph is what matters, because there's so many more instances of coin flip that more often than not he brings the heads rather than the tails, and that's kind of what's allowed Dragonsteel to flourish a little bit, I think. So yeah, I don't know, man. FlyQuest Challengers has been super coin flippy this split, and I'm really hoping that they lock it in for playoffs. Out of curiosity, did you see the interview with Surdy after the CCG match?
I did not.
So he was talking to Joshi after the match, and he had a very honest and real moment, and he basically came forward saying, earlier this split and even kind of halfway into the split, I really was not putting my full heart into competitive. I really was just playing like a solo queue player, and I was making a lot of dumb solo queue-esque, like dumb mistakes that like in solo queue would not get punished, but in competitive play would get punished. And it was for stuff like that what was causing FlyQuest to kind of run it down a little bit and like have dumb, silly moments, and that's kind of why they did not perform as high as they have in the past. And so I thought, it was very, what's it called? Inward looking, kind of like, what is the self-accountable kind of phrasing that I cannot think of the word for right now. But it was very nice to be able to see that from him and acknowledge that, hey, yeah, I did not have the right mindset. I was not playing to my full potential. And he said in the past 2 weeks, ever since the AoE match, because apparently I think what he said was like the Blue Otter loss was kind of like a real like wake up call, like, oh, okay, I need to like lock it in. And then AOE still wasn't great. And then he said the CCG match himself, he was a little bit better. He felt a little bit more himself, and he really felt like he was starting to take back the title of, like, I am the best top laner in this league, and no one else is even close. And I really truly believe that he is the best top laner in this league, but he has not been performing at that level, at least in terms of competitive. We've all been talking, like, I've talked about it on the podcast in the past. Like, he's far and away the best solo queue player in the world right now, I think. Unless there's someone in Korea or LPL or in China that I'm not aware of. But he has, like, the highest LPL or LP gains out of anyone in the world right now. So, like, this man deserves to be on an LCS team, but only if he's actually performing with the consideration of competitive in mind, not having these kind of silly solo queue thought processes on stage, you know? So, hopefully he locks it in. The team locks it in. I kind of need Shaden to lock it in a little bit. I need Bradley to kind of step up a little bit. And if that happens, I mean, TL Challengers is always scary because especially going into playoffs like these, I mean, FlyQuest does it, TL does it, like, because they're the Challengers teams of the actual LCS orgs. Like, there's resources that can kind of get pulled in, and they kind of get the extra little buff going into playoffs and become a little scarier. So this is kind of a scary first round playoff. I'd actually rather be playing Supernova or Blue Otter right now. So even though we lost to Blue Otter, so yeah, we'll see how they do. And then they'll play Fear after that, and like I said, probably Dragonsteel after that, and we'll see what happens after that. Do you have any final thoughts on NACL, Curly?
I'm just super hyped because I firmly believe. I've always put a lot of energy behind FlyQuest NACL. I've always just felt like we are, for the last 2-3 years, like just the top of the league, and I always expect us to go far. And so that isn't stopping now. I don't care what kind of split we've had. It's playoffs time, baby. We're gonna lock it the fuck in.
We better. I still have every expectation to see this team in Brazil. I really would like to see it be Dragonsteel and FlyQuest Challengers down in Brazil. I think that's the best chance for a NA victory. Although I'm not worried if Fear goes or Supernova goes. I think in general they should be a pretty easy competition when we go down there. But I just still want to maximize our chances. All right. I've been talking a lot more than I normally do. The joys of having Sandy here is he gives my voice reprieve a little bit for my monologues, and instead when I'm the one doing this, like, I just talk for like an hour and a half straight, which I can do, but then I'm kind of like, at the end of it. So with that said, do you have any shout outs or things you want to hit on before we wrap this up real quick, Curly?
Oh man, you know what? I don't know if I do have any big shout outs.
I mean, if you don't, you don't. Like, it's no big deal.
This is going to be a very random shout out. There's a Pokemon tabletop RPG out there, system that is very community run. And I'm very, very happy with the community as they're starting to introduce Gen 9 Pokemon to it, because now, in my campaign that we've started back up on Sundays, that means I can finally get Tinkaton in my party.
Okay.
So shout out to those people for finally setting up Gen 9 so I can have Tinkaton.
Sick. I think my one little shout out will be go follow FlyQuest Fly Fighters on Twitter. They are doing a $1 for follower kind of competition. I don't know. There's a what did Parker call it?
There's
a thing in the terms and conditions.
Follower,
yeah.
They will add $1 to their prize pool. That's the thing. You got to be a new one. You can't. Unfortunately, Nox and I cannot give $2 to Nitro.
And we cannot go unfollow, an infinite money glitch, right?
No.
But you should go follow FlyQuest Fighters or Fly Fighters on Twitter. There's $1 donated to the prize pool, and it will be used to the first major 2xKO tournament, which should be pretty cool. And it's not public knowledge, but it is in the terms and conditions, so I'm going to talk about it. But this is a $50,000 prize pool. That's a lot of money for the FGC scene. Like, that's a crazy prize pool.
You don't have to play for like half the year. You can just spend half of the training.
Yeah. So and that's the like if I read the terms and conditions right, I think that's like the bare minimum of what's being contributed. Every follower added is additional money on top of that, so it's 50,000 minimum. If FlyQuests gets no new followers, which is probably just not going to happen, there will be new followers. So we'll see how much that prize pool ends up being. I guess the last thing we'll say, or I guess here's what we'll do. We'll say our goodbyes, and then I'll edit, and then I'll leave the stream on because we wanted to ask about the tabletop game real quick. So I don't think I'm as good as Sandy as saying goodbyes and closeouts, but I think that's all our shout-outs really quick. So I will say thank you, everyone, who tuned in. This will be on our YouTube channel if you want to listen to us talk about FlyQuest heading into playoffs and FlyQuest Challengers heading into playoffs. Something, bite your teeth, hit your head on the nail. Am I forgetting anything, Curly?
And we'll see you next time.
All right, yeah. Have a good one, guys.
And then supposedly
peace, y'all. Yeah. All right. Anyway, that's the recording part for me. I'll edit it right there, and then we was asking in chat what's the Pokemon tabletop game?
So it's literally called Pokemon Tabletop United. The link, put it in Mayo Cord. It's PokemonTabletop.com. Bam. Or, I guess I didn't hit enter there, but yeah. And so they've just got real systems, and with my DM is a fucking madman because he literally has taken the sheets and docs from them and refined them to what he thinks is the most relevant, put them in a Google Drive for us. And then they have like a Google Sheets spreadsheet that is supposed to be a character sheet. And what my DM has done over the last 2 years is he's just refined it to its own completely unique thing. He has effectively improved the UI every few months to make it easier and easier for us to use, and he's slowly making it our own little D&D Beyond. And it's just absolutely crazy. But yeah, there's a lot to it, because as with D&D, it's got 18 skills, but then the way you get those skills is you have to make a background, and you can be a novice in one of those skills, but then you have to be pathetic in 3 other skills. It's pretty crazy. It's all over the place. And you can technically have 4 classes because of the way they name things. It's it can be a lot. There's a lot of avenues to go down with it, but it's very fun. Very, very fun. I enjoy it.
Kind of I did something similar to this a long time ago back in college, but no, it seems kind of cool.
No, yeah, the other cool thing about it too is just there are some moves that work way better in this system than in the Pokemon game.
In the VGC,
in the main, just on the Switch or whatever. It's not 70% is actually 0% or whatever it is, It's the way they account for hits and damage and crits, it's just pretty cool. And then they've got, what gets weird is some what would be high PP moves are busted because they can just always be done, but some low PP moves are actually really difficult to manage because you can only use them maybe once or twice a fight,
Cool.
So it's very, very interesting. But yeah, Pokemon Tabletop, baby.
All right.
Get yourself a DM.
I'm going to end the stream here.
Yeah.
And then I've got to go get dinner.